You know, I'm having a hard time believing this is real, but it's real. It is actually real. It's not a parody. It's not a joke.
They have to go
it's
around
not
and tell
someone
you
making
just how
fun
well
of
this book is
Marvel
not
Comics.
doing.
It's someone at Marvel
I
Comics.
accept
It
that
is
in
Marvel
my
Comics
criticism.
that is
DC
actually
Comics.
I have to accept that as reality. That said,
Not on my watch.
this isn't a
Jim Grayson, please.
Clearly is my life.
When they're in
I don't have
the
to
Teen
do
Titans
this
together, they
we are all bounding into comics.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't care.
As an optimistic fan of comic books, it's easy to assume that the community that houses such media that I love, that is so diverse and historically marginalized by society, would be more open-minded to more underrepresented communities. Boy, was I wrong. Something happened around 2015 to 2016 with then rising presidential candidate Donald Trump and his more brazen, crass nature. His fans rallied behind the idea that this is somebody that speaks their mind, which was normally a dog whistle for racism.
I say it again, what do you have to lose? Look, what do you have to lose? You're living in poverty, your schools are no good, you have no jobs, 58% of your youth is unemployed.
Sexism.
Do you believe in punishment for abortion? Yes or no, as a principle?
There has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman?
Yeah.
And xenophobia.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
Meanwhile, coming off the heels of the Gamergate controversy was this new advent in feminism that would soon be coined as SJWs, or social justice warriors if you've been living under a rock your whole life. These were feminists that mostly pushed for the betterment of women and more diversity in media for underrepresented groups. I saw this as more an aggressive form of fourth wave feminism, if anything. Tired of the mistreatment of women in society, especially in media and entertainment. They were very vocal online, unafraid to voice their concerns of the objectification of women, to the tokenization of minorities, and the erasure of gay representation. While there were instances where their concerns were not completely airtight, that doesn't invalidate the issues that they brought to the forefront. Alongside this came the surging popularity of the comic book genre, with the rising MCU, the popularity of The Walking Dead, and the newly formed Comicscape. YouTube as a landscape became bustling with comic book related media, from Easter egg videos, to comic reviews, to movie critiques. They were everywhere. And with this came the most toxic combination of elements since bleach and ammonia, the anti-SJW. You see, anti-SJWs are what I can best describe as media enthusiasts. Be it movies, comics, video games, whatever it is, they dedicate their lives to it. They became more vocal and more prominent around 2017 to 2018. If I had to pinpoint a specific catalyst for this, it would probably be the promotion for Marvel Studios' Captain Marvel. Brie Larson, the film's lead, is an incredibly open feminist, and when she began critiquing the lack of diversity in reviewers and press, and how when a movie is targeted towards a predominantly less white male audience, it has a higher chance of gaining scrutiny from said white male audience. You may have seen some of these videos or articles around saying, "Captain Marvel, not for the white men," with pictures of Brie Larson allegedly blaming the film's poor reviews on toxic white men. This, however, wasn't true. Larson's actual words were about the movie A Wrinkle in Time, and how that movie was made for specifically women and teens of color, with her exact quote being,
"I do not need a 40-year-old white dude to tell me what didn't work for him about A Wrinkle in Time. It wasn't made for him. I want to know what that film meant to women of color, to biracial women, to teen women of color, to teens that are biracial."
This put Larson on the anti-SJW hit list. She was public enemy number 1, with her face plastered on all of these guys' thumbnails as recent as the last 2 months. And it went beyond just her remarks about reviewers. There were videos about her so-called stilted acting in trailers, to her ass not being fat enough in behind-the-scenes photos, to her not smiling enough in MCU posters.
To press tour, as well as complaints that the actress doesn't smile in the poster for a film. Stunning and brave. People want to see a smile. You don't smile, so you are overcoming rampant sexism, of course.
Newsflash, only 4 people have ever smiled in MCU posters. I know, I've checked. There's this clear double standard in actors and characters. On one hand, these guys idolize the stoic badasses of the 80s to 90s action hero genre. But when it was a woman, nah, that's feminism. That's the woke agenda trying to strip away femininity from women and shove it down our throats. This was only the beginning. Over time, these anti-SJWs would view not just feminism as their enemy, but any form of progressivism. You would see hundreds of videos by these people every time there was a POC or female main character in any sort of prominence in their favorite franchises. The thing is, when these minority groups seek inclusion into these forms of media, it sort of highlights this lack of representation. This lack of representation or misrepresentation can be seen as a flaw in these media franchises. However, when these anti-SJWs heard of these flaws in so many of the franchises they cherished, they took that personally. Rather than listening to any of the criticisms in any regard, instead they decided to double down on their beliefs, and anything that became criticized was then cherished. They saw these criticisms and pushes for diversity and inclusion as attacks of their franchises of choice, and in turn an attack on their control and superiority in said media. They'll view a POC female main character as an attack on all male leads, or trans, gay, or even bi inclusion as straight cisgender erasure. And whenever this inclusion happens, it's always attributed to the woke agenda. Let's talk about that actually. What is the woke agenda? You hear it all the time, even recently. Whenever there's a slight remodeling of a female character and her existing pop culture figure comes out as bi, it's always the woke agenda. It's difficult to believe these people are actually fans of comics when they spend so much of their time hating the media that they say that they love. For instance, in 2021, DC Comics announced that longtime comics character Tim Drake, the third Robin within the pantheon of Robins, would be bisexual and dating his previously established high school classmate, Bernard Dowd. Many critics of this called it a forced retcon and doesn't make any sense. I mean, Tim has been dating fellow Bat Family sidekick Stephanie Brown, aka Spoiler, for a long time. Thing is, this relationship, apart from being an on and off one as most comic book relationships are, is not retconned within the narrative. By making Tim bisexual, it doesn't pretend as if previous relationships with Spoiler or Wonder Girl didn't happen or didn't mean anything. What it means is that currently, and within the foreseeable future, Tim will also date dudes. And the funniest part about this is, even if Tim were to break up with Bernard right now and then get back together with Stephanie, he would still be bi, because that's how bisexuality works. This is the key to the outrage machine. You see, when things like this are reported by social media outlets, it normally targets LGBT fans of comics and the characters, with their reactions more often not intended to be, hey, that's cool, they're just like me. And people like me who are straight will be like, huh, that's neat. Moving on. But anti-SJWs don't want that. No, they'll tell you that they don't care, or it doesn't matter, and it shouldn't be garnering attention.
Robin becomes a bisexual icon in a new Batman comic. Yes, you heard that right. Robin is now bisexual. And now you're probably wondering, why does that matter? Well, it doesn't. But for whatever reason, the media really likes to pay attention to that.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't care. When I heard this, you wanna know what I did? I said, great. That's what I said. I said, great. This is awesome. Destroy DC. I don't care.
But then explain to you in incredible vitriol why you should hate it. The funniest part is all of their complaints can be shot down rather easily. So let's run through some of them. Complaint number 1. It came out of nowhere. First off, no. Tim has had a borderline flirtatious rapport with Connor Kent for years. And even if it did come out of nowhere, so what? That's how life works. You could know someone their entire lives and then one day they could just come out as gay. Because that's the whole point of being closeted. You don't want people to know that you're not straight. Complaint number 2. It's pandering. And corporations pander to people all the time because that's where the money is. No corporation actually cares about the communities it supports. But that doesn't mean its support isn't helpful. It is incredibly helpful to have a multi-billion-dollar corporation behind you. Complaint number 3. It's unnecessary. Since when has a character ever needed a reason to be straight? Did we ever need an explanation on why Aang was attracted to Katara and not Sokka? Why is it that it's only when a character is anything other than straight or cis, it has to be necessitated? You don't need a reason to be you. Complaint number 4. Why don't they just make a new character? This is actually an interesting one. So often they frame their criticism as an aversion to change in a pre-existing character, in a way to take weight off the idea that they are against different sexualities or gender identities. Oh, I'm not homophobic, I just don't like it when the thing I like is changed. And this could almost be believable if they didn't constantly contradict themselves. Whenever a new character is introduced, they still complain about it, often calling it woke pandering, even something as simple as an alternate future version of the Flash that just so happens to use they/them pronouns. That's too much for them, apparently.
Whew. Let me show you something. Meet Shade, the first drag queen X-Man. I'm not kidding. So we go back to the Mutant Pride rally because, we're just associating that now because literally the X-Men are every single oppressed group now. That's what they represent because Marvel people have no idea what else to do with them.
Yes, because the X-Men, originally standing in as an allegory for racism in the 60s, evolved eventually to be an allegory for homophobia, and then any oppressed group. That's the point of the X-Men. Mutants are the other, the oppressed group. So what better way to represent the oppressed group than making them align with mutants?
The ragdoll-looking hero in training is actually a ragdoll brought to life by magic that is considered non-binary and genderqueer. Why do you need anything? You're a fucking fake ragdoll.
That's the point. How can you be so close to getting it, but then it just right over?
He's got a septum nose ring. I was like, me. Shoot me now, bruh. Shoot me now. I was like, they done up Captain America. Marvel has lost their minds. Marvel has lost their minds. That's what I was thinking.
I don't see the problem. Captain America is always meant to represent America, its people, and its ideals. And since America is so diverse, culturally and ethnicity-wise, wouldn't it make sense for there to be multiple faces to Captain America?
What they did, so the character's name, right, if you translate it into Filipino, like if you take that name and you translate it, if you know Filipino, it means ball sack. I'm not kidding.
Damn, imagine the most popular sidekick of all time to one of the most popular superheroes of all time was named after male genitalia. That would be wild. It's never been about forcibly changing their favorite character's race or sexuality. It's always been about them existing in the first place. Even if it's a brand new character that is a drag queen, gay, bi, trans, person of color, if they have even the slightest bit of prominence, they are seen as forced diversity and thus shoved down our throats. And if the characters are subtle about themselves and their identities and come out at a later date, they're still seen as forced and out of nowhere, because to them, any character upon creation is automatically straight, cis, white, and male, and requires a reason to be otherwise. And if that assumption is broken, at any point it is seen as forced, because any inclusion is forced inclusion to them. If you're too subtle, it's unseen. If you're upfront about it, it's shoved down their throat. They put themselves in this sort of bubble that you just can't win against. And yet somehow, we're the snowflakes? This is the basis of my argument of the underlying bigotry of the comic book community. You can even say that, yeah, they're only a small amount of people, but they have a large fan base that often overlaps with that of Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder, with messages that reach that of Fox News and Newsmax when Captain America does what Captain America's always done: commentary on America.
Captain America on how America is built on lies. You got to hear this. Here's the quote. Here's the thing about a dream, though. A dream isn't real. I'm starting to think America actually has two dreams and one lie. The first American dream is the one that isn't real. Is some people expect just to be handed to them, and then they get angry when it disappears. When the truth is, it never really existed in the first place. It doesn't get along nicely with reality. Other culture immigrants. The poor, we're at our best when we keep no one out. A good dream is shared radically, shared with everyone. When something isn't shared, I can become the American lie. I think this is such terrible rhetoric.
We're so mentally removed by it because it's been over 80 years. But Captain America debuted punching Hitler in the face on the front cover of December 1940. Before America entered World War II, at a time of the German-American Bund.
Where do you think this is? Right in Madison Square Garden, USA. And this is Fritz Kuhn, leader of the German-American Bund, hiding behind the American flag, but taking his orders from Berlin and copying the methods of Berlin. That was the softening up process outside Germany.
Yeah, Captain America's debut was incredibly and deliberately political, sparking outrage and even death threats to the creators. And it doesn't just stop at Captain America. Superman was used as anti-Cold War propaganda, along with the Hulk being used as an allegory for the threat of nuclear holocaust. The X-Men, again, were an allegory for racism in the 60s, then homophobia, and now just overall bigotry. And Wonder Woman was made to be a feminist by a feminist. The problem has never been that comic books are political, because they've clearly always been political and had political messages. It's just that now these people are starting to just disagree with the politics that were already there. They think that this media is becoming more liberal when it's not. They're just becoming more conservative. As an avid comic book fan and creator, I want to make sure my community is open and accepting to all people that love and appreciate comics. I also want to thank Xander Hall and Shark300 for helping me find my voice and inspiring me to finally make a video. This is a first for me. If you like the video, give it a like. If not, no one's forcing you. Subscribe if you feel like it. But yeah, thank you, and I'll try to make another one at some point.